There have been a couple points in my life where I've been at a job and I just hate it. Like, I wake up every day, I feel like shit. I don't want to get out of bed. I don't want to go to work because I'm like, how do I break out of this cycle? And how do I keep on going when I just feel really shitty every day? During these points in my life, I would go on YouTube and I would type in, how do you survive a 9 to 5 while feeling like shit, while feeling depressed? Like, how do you survive a job when you want to quit? And I didn't find anything that was like this. That is like this video that I'm about to make. So in this video, I want to provide you guys 4 steps on what you can do in this situation and how I got out of it, because I went from a point where I really, really wanted to quit just every day to a point now in life where I'm pretty okay with where I'm at. So that's what we're going to cover in this video. Let's jump in. Okay. So step 1 that I took is focus on the now. So I'm going to assume that you actually want to continue going to your job because you have adult responsibilities, you have bills to pay, you can't just like stop going. So the first actionable step that I took to really kickstart all this is to just focus on the now, especially when you get out of bed, because when you're in the situation, you really just don't want to leave your bed. And that's because for me, my mind went to like, oh, okay, well, if I go to this job, then I'm going to feel like shit. It's terrible there. All these like negative thoughts. And I am like, why don't I just focus on getting out of bed? Focus on drinking the water that I drink in the morning. Focus on getting the blanket off of my body. Focus on walking to the bathroom. And I noticed that if you just focus on the now, like what's immediately in front of you, you don't think about the next steps. You don't dread the day. And so that really helped me just be able to get up and to be able to go to my job and keep on going, because that's one of the things that you have to do in these situations. You just have to keep on going. So that's the first step. The second step is identify your values and principles. Now, this was important because I associated a lot of my identity with my job. I think a lot of people do this. One of the first questions you ask when you meet someone is, oh, what do you do? And that's almost bad in a way because it just assumes that that person is their job. Like, this person is a software developer. This person is a designer. When there's so much more to your identity than just your job. So this is the problem. Identity equals work. Like, you just assume that your identity is your job. And the solution is to, what we said before, identify values and principles. Now, why? Why is this? Because when you identify things you stand by, when you were like, I am a punctual person, therefore one of my values is I really value time. When you identify these things, these are things that you entirely own and nobody can take them away from you. This goes back to the idea of diversification. So if you know stocks, if you do investing, you know the common advice of like, you have to diversify your assets, right? You have to diversify your risk. So same concept here. If you put all your eggs in one basket, if you put your entire identity into your job and then you lose your job or you're unhappy with your job, then you're gonna feel shitty because who you are is just entirely tied to your job. So the whole reason behind why we do this is to diversify your identity and who you are. And the effect of doing this, which is pretty significant, is you diversify your happiness. So if your entire source of happiness is from the accomplishments you achieve at work, and that goes down, then where is your source of happiness going to come from? So not only does it diversify your identity, but also diversify your happiness, because you were like, okay, I might not have had the greatest work day today, but I am still this person because I stand by these principles. If you want an example of principles and values, I'll put a screenshot up here. Like, these are some of mine, just for context. This third step here is to remember the positives. Now, this is the mindset shift that helped me the most in this period of my life. Because when you're in a situation like this, it's really, really easy to just look at the negatives. I remember someone asking me, hey, you should list out 100 things that you're grateful for this job. And I just couldn't. I think I listed like 10, maybe like 15. But as I paid more and more attention to the positives and not the negatives, I saw a lot of things that I missed. And so I want to give you a couple tools in order to do this, because if you're in this headspace, it might be difficult to start. So I already mentioned the first one, which is gratitude. That's a pretty self-explanatory one. You just write, I am grateful for, and then you just fill in the blank. I'm grateful for this job because it allows me to pay the bills. I'm grateful for this job because it allows me to have a structure in my day. I hear a couple of other examples that I have. You can like pause the video if you want to view it. for inspiration. The second tool that I'll give you is, what do you find miserable versus fulfilling? So this should be a pretty easy list to come up with. You just think of all the things that make you miserable, and you think of all the things in your job that make you fulfilling. So as always, I will leave my list here that I did back then at the time. By the way, this is also a great list to have if you decide to look for another job. You want to minimize the things that make you miserable and maximize the things that make you fulfilled. Yeah, so again, don't beat yourself up if you can't come up with this stuff right away. I know it's difficult too in your current situation if you were in the same space that I was at back then. But this mindset shift has really helped me in allowing this job to be a lot more sustainable, the job that I'm currently at right now. But what also helped was knowing that I had a plan. So this is step number 4. Step number 4 is plan and progress. So pretty self-explanatory. Come up with a plan and make progress in it. A couple of tips for this, we'll talk about the plan first, is when you're coming up with a plan, have a timeline, because it shows you that there is an end date and there's still a light at the end of the tunnel. And make progress. So the reason this is important is because it doesn't make you feel hopeless. Like if you have a plan in place and every day you are seeing progress towards that plan, you're like, yes, there is movement in this area. I don't feel hopeless. I feel a lot better. There's an end to this, and I'm doing something about it. And I think that's really important in situations like this, is you know that you can do things about your situation and that things are in your control. So another note about this, plan-wise, and I guess also goals-wise, is pick things that are entirely in your control. Other people you cannot control. That's the biggest one. So examples, a goal that I can set for this channel is 1,000 subscribers, but I can't control you guys. I can't control who decides to subscribe and who doesn't. I can only mention it from time to time, but I can control how many videos I output. So I made a goal. I was like, all right, let's just output 100 videos and get really good at this. So same thing kind of goes for when you're setting these goals. If a part of your goal depends on people, then readjust that part of the plan so that it doesn't. And then from then on out, in order to make progress, you just have to do the work. You got to go home after a work day that you may or may not have enjoyed, and you just have to put in the time, get the work done, and make progress. A bonus tip here that I'll throw in is find friends in the same boat. Now, the reason this is a bonus tip is because, going back to what we just said, you can't control other people. So as great as it sounds for me to say like, oh dude, just find friends that are in the same boat that also like don't like their jobs and want change, it's not always possible because you can't control whether or not you meet these people. So if you meet someone or you know someone, then talk to them about it. I've found that it's always more great to suffer together than suffer alone. And for me, I was lucky enough to have this person, so I found a ton of value in just being able to talk to someone about this stuff. But yeah, quick little bonus tip. You might know someone who is in the same situation as you. It's a lot more common than you may think. So talk to them. And as we end off here, I know that shit's probably hard right now. So you gotta just do it. You gotta just do it, man. In fact, I'll end this off with a quote from a friend. She said, "When I was in the hospital, I realized that no one was going to come save me. That if anyone was going to help me, it had to be myself." This is something that I've referred back to time and time again during this period of my life. So take action, do what you need to do to get out of your situation, and eventually it's gonna happen. Keep on going, and as always, I hope you learned something, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.